We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully your day is going well. It is Sunday. We're doing a Substack live. I love doing these. I could just do it by myself, talk to you folks. And again, I'm really counting on you folks to come through, make comments, ask questions, give your perspectives, whatever it is. I'm going to tell you up front, I'm doing this live a little later than I usually do. Hopefully that doesn't make a difference with return in terms of people coming to the live. You maybe notice my eyes are red. And no, I haven't been out partying. Hell, I haven't been partying since the 80s. But but I was at a place where they have cats, and I have a slight allergy to cats, so my eyes are red. I'm fine. I'll survive. But I got some red eyes here. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff that's going on because it just seems to be that there's more and more silly shit happening. We know that Donald Trump is not liking what's going on with this Jeffrey Epstein thing. Everything he tries to do to assuage it, it's not working. So what's he do? He gets on a plane and gets the fuck out of Dodge. He goes to Scotland to basically promote his golf courses there. The only problem with that is that the people in Scotland don't like this motherfucker. They don't like him at all. In fact, while he's out there golfing, there's all kinds of protesters in Scotland, for God's sake. And you have to read some of the signs that people are holding there. Trump is scum. Trump is even worse words than that. So he didn't get too good a welcome there. And he certainly wasn't given any relief from the questions about Epstein because the press there was asking him the same thing. When I was seeing all these protests in Scotland, I was trying to imagine what Donald Trump was thinking. Is he trying to figure out how to get the National Guard or the Marines into fucking Scotland? It wouldn't surprise me. Is he going to talk about deporting people from Scotland to wherever the fuck? This is how stupid this guy is. And we deal with it every day, and it becomes more and more silly. Over and above all the cruelty and the corruption and the crimes that Donald Trump commits, it's absolutely embarrassing to this country. And when I talk to Trump-a-fucks now, I'm thinking, you see what's going on. You understand what's going on. And you still follow him. What the fuck are you thinking? How could you possibly follow this guy with the embarrassing bullshit that he does? Donald Trump is still trying to push this issue to divert, distract, delay from the Jeffrey Epstein thing by saying Obama is a treasonist. That's really interesting. He would say that. First of all, what he's talking about is Obama allegedly attempting a coup in 2016. Why the fuck would Obama do that? He just finished out 2 successful terms. He's moving on. Does he really care about committing a coup to help Hillary Clinton? I find that hard to believe. But here's the thing. They whined about this in 2016 in spite of the fact that they won the fucking election. They whined about it, and there was an investigation. They're talking about hiring a special prosecutor to look into this. Well, they did that once. They hired that dipshit named Durham, who spent millions of dollars and lots of time and found absolutely nothing. So how does it make sense to hire another special counsel to look into something they couldn't find anything from? Now, there was a rumor going around, and I didn't report this because I got no way to, there was no way to verify it. But some people are suggesting that Barack Obama is going to sue Donald Trump for $500 billion for libel. Now, that doesn't sound like something Barack Obama would do. It sounds like something people threw out there just for the fuck of it. So I doubt that. But he certainly could sue him for libel. That would be interesting. Eric from Iowa says the desperation from the Trump team is getting worse. I could see him having a mental breakdown soon. Eric, yeah, I agree with you completely. But I think that mental breakdown came like 4 or 5 years ago. It's just that nobody on the Trump-a-fuck side can recognize it. Jose Villafane, I heard that Hillary is suing Trump for $10 billion. Now, that I could kind of see. what does she have to lose in this whole situation? I mean, from what they did to her in 2016 to what they're doing to her now, somebody's got to throw some hurdles in the way of Donald Trump and cause him some problems. Spacer says he's also took the time to tell Europe that they're being invaded by immigrants. He thinks the whole world loves him. That's the thing. That's the thing that's so amazing. I think when he went to Scotland or wherever he goes, I think he believes people love him. He keeps telling us how popular he is, but I honestly think he believes it. So the more we can get out how many people hate this fucking clown, then it is going to have an impact on his mental well-being. Not that it's good already, but it'll get worse. Sarah says, I can't even stand his voice. Yeah, you and me both. Michael Catlett says, every accusation is a confession. It does seem to be true, doesn't it? He's saying that Obama was attempting a coup, which isn't true. But in fact, Donald Trump did attempt a coup. You're absolutely right. Every accusation is a confession. Lucy Medrano said, this is the strategy they gave him anytime you don't like what's being said, say Obama. I heard that when he was talking to the right-wing folks, and he said, every time they bring up this Jeffrey Epstein thing, you should be talking about Barack Obama. That's what he would like, but I got to tell you, the Obama thing's not getting much traction, and it's getting worse for Epstein. So good luck trying to do that. Trump followers don't think about anything except hatred. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It becomes very frustrating talking to a Trump fuck because they don't understand anything. They just don't fucking get it. I don't know if it's they honestly believe what they're saying or they just can't admit they're wrong. But let's be honest. If you support Donald Trump, you support keeping the Epstein files hidden. You support someone who was a child sex trafficker. That's who you support. And there's no two ways about it. We know what Jeffrey Epstein did. We know what Ghislaine Maxwell did. And now he's thinking about the prospect of pardoning her. Let's see. I think Trump won't make it. Hold on. I think Trump won't make it to the end of the year. I would agree with you. Fingers crossed for that. Cat Love says President Obama must sue this fucktard. He has got to fight back and stop playing the game or going high when they go low. I would agree. I hope that Obama understands why the fight is necessary. To go high when they go low, that's something Michelle Obama put out there. And, let's be honest, Obama's a little classier guy than Donald Trump. So he may just ignore it. I would expect that's what he'd do. But this guy needs to get hammered from all sides before we break this fucker down. Eric of Iowa says he's definitely high on his own supply. That or Adderall. Probably a combination of both. Continue on. He's a national buffoon and a putz on the world stage. He needs to Epstein himself. If, in fact, that's what Epstein did. Spacer says, I've been seeing that a fraction of latte liberals are at it again. They're clutching their pearls at the follow-up to Texas gerrymandering by Democrats to gerrymander possible New York, California, and New Jersey. They threaten not to in 26 or 28, not to vote in 26 or 28. They've learned nothing. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We do have problems on the left side, and if they thought this out, if they considered what's going on, they would have done the right thing. But they want what they want it all right now. Oh, I'm sorry, that's just not possible. It's not going to be possible in 26 or 28 either. John Joseph Moran says he lives in a world of pure fantasy, and his mega supporter. Yeah, he's different. He's definitely living in another dimension. because nothing he says, nothing he does makes any sense. And the troubling thing is the Republican Party knows this, but they're still too afraid to stand up to him. And when this is all said and done, I hope you Republicans remember your gutless representatives. Trucker T says, "Hey, Mike." Hey, Trucker T. Good to see you. Sarah, he talks shit every single day. It's exhausting. Cat Love says, "Rational, I believe the Trumpers believe every lie that comes out of Trump's pie hole." Yeah, I've said this before. I said, if you still follow Donald Trump, there's only one of two possibilities. First is you're fucking evil. Second is you're stupid. And because I'm a positive guy, I'm just going to assume that you're stupid because I can't possibly imagine you're that fucking evil. He also wants to sue Kamala and Beyonce. Well, good luck with that. Kamala and Beyonce. See, this is what I mean. The things he's saying should be a signal to the Republicans that this fucker's lost it. I mean, he's got all these issues that are going on. We're on the 26th of July, and August 1 is when the tariffs are supposed to be happening. Shouldn't he be cutting deals there? I mean, I thought it was 90 deals in 90 days, and he hasn't really cut any. He said he's cut deals, but there's never been any evidence of any deals really being done. And when he says he cuts these deals, the country says, yeah, we haven't figured out anything yet. Donald Trump is just flat lying. So it's going to be interesting to see how he bails out on August 1st. Because, Trump is a taco. Trump always chickens out. And I'm guessing that's what will happen on August 1st. Katlov says, I agree with Spacer. We need not to clutch our pearls, but go head to head with the Repubs. But sitting on the sidelines is not a strategy. And, this is something I've said all along. This is something we've got to do. We've got to fight. And we don't necessarily even have to fight fair. We just have to take a page from the Republicans and go at them head to head. If we want to fight somebody like this, we better be able to get down in the mud with them. The only realistic ending of Trump that one could reasonably expect be a massive fat-ass terminal embolism. I've often said it isn't inconceivable that with his current health condition, his current weight, and his current eating habits, that he could fall over in the Oval Office and choke on a Big Mac. I think that's distinctly possible, and my fingers are crossed for such. I don't think the Repub leaders are afraid of Trump. They're simply reflecting what is already in them, pure hatred and evil. Well, that's another way to look at it. But they're also, some of these people aren't stupid. They have to understand this is going to be devastating for them when you hit the midterms. They're going to lose their power. You would have to think that they are considering that, but apparently not. The mustache man's cronies did the same thing to the end. Yeah, there's a lot that can be said about history and how it kind of reflects what's going on now. On the Rational Blonde Boomer podcast today, or yesterday, if you're listening on the podcast, we had Denise, who's very knowledgeable about history, and it's amazing the parallels between historical times and what's going on now. And you know what? Whenever we've continued to do what we're doing now, it always ends badly. So fucking learn a lesson. Eric says he's floating the idea of a rebate from tariffs. He's trying to buy admiration. Yeah, he'll talk about sending people money. He already talked about sending us money from Doge. Never happened. I don't know where he's going to get the money to send us, or where he's going to get the money from tariffs. Well, maybe I do know. See, here's how it's going to work with the tariffs. There's a tariff on things from China, let's say. So you buy it. I can imagine this, and some dumb fuckers will believe this. So say you're buying something for $100, but with a tariff of 50%, it's now $150. If he could come up with a way to send back a rebate, say $25 or 25% of the original price, then he would send you back the $25. Yay, that's a good thing. But you're still paying $25 more for the product you were paying $100 for just a few months ago. That's Donald Trump logic. That's what he thinks will get people really excited. But anybody with half a brain would understand that's fucking stupid. John says, I wonder who's going to take him out, but that would leave us with Vance. Yeah, we've talked about this before on the podcast. Everybody says Vance is worse than Donald Trump. And I have to disagree. He's not worse than Donald Trump. Now, don't get me wrong. J.D. Vance is not a good politician. He wouldn't be a good president. But the difference between Vance and Donald Trump is a certain amount of restraint. First of all, J.D. Vance is always controlled by somebody. And that's not necessarily good because these people could be evil and get him to do things. But he doesn't have the charisma or the strength to bully members of Congress or even some of the base who probably already hate him. Yeah, going from Donald Trump to J.D. Vance probably wouldn't be a great transition. It'd be a slightly better because Donald Trump, even the Republicans can't control him. He just comes out of his ass and does whatever he wants, whatever he feels at the moment. J.D. Vance wouldn't do that. We'd have to start working on J.D. Vance at this time if he was to take over as president, but it would still be better than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the cancer that has to be cut out. After that, there may be some residual cancer, like, say, J.D. Vance, but let's worry about that until we get the real big fucking tumor, the big tumor out. They are depending on not having elections or fixing them. Well, Eric and I have talked about this before. The idea that there are no elections coming, I don't believe that's going to happen. That would cause as much problem for the Republicans as it would the Democrats. And in as far as cheating, Eric's mentioned this before too. It's one thing to attempt to cheat on a federal election, a presidential election, but in state elections, that means you got to have somebody in every state. You've got to be dealing with every representative, every Senate. That would be hard to do. That would be hard to do. And frankly, the best way to beat that is to get a blue tsunami. That means everybody get off their ass and vote. Mike Johnson said not money will be issued. Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to send anybody money. And anybody who believes the bullshit that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth, you deserve the disappointment and embarrassment that you're surely going to receive. All right, moving on. Benign left with Vance is not a deal breaker. He is not a cult leader despite his attraction to the base, but I doubt that he'll be as charismatic as Trump is, the son of Satan with the mark of 666 on him. Yeah, to be perfectly honest with you, J.D. Vance has some problems too. He has some problems with some of the things he's done. He's not going to be very powerful or popular, and he's not going to be powerful because he can't do what Donald Trump is currently doing. The people in the MAGA side are not going to bend a knee to J.D. Vance. They're just not going to do it. He just unfroze education funding for public schooling. Chicken Donald is trying desperately to excuse himself. Yeah, I suspect there's going to be some of that too. Donald Trump backing away from some of these things when he realizes just how damaging it's been to him or will be. But understand the damage he's done to this country, he can't fix. We need an entirely different culture in Congress and in the presidency, and then it's going to take months, years, maybe a decade to fix all the shit he's broken. So you can try what you want to try, Donald, but nobody's going to receive any benefit from it, and they're going to hold him responsible. Michael says protest movements are growing by the day. People need to get out there and make noise. If nothing else destroys his bullshit confidence, he has no justification for having in the first place. I've gone to 3 now, and I regularly chased off pussy-ass Trumper counter-protesters. You're absolutely right about that, and I've said this before. We've tried to take him down in so many ways that haven't worked. The one thing that is working is the Jeffrey Epstein situation because he's embarrassed and the people keep pushing it. We do have to keep that up. We have to make the silly memes. We've got to make jokes about him in Scotland. We have to talk about the mistakes he made. We've got to keep pounding on him because that's what'll drive him nuts. That's what'll cause him to spiral and ultimately crash. This country will never heal until Trump is gone. Agreed. I agree completely. And when you say gone, it could be mortally or it could be so shamed that he's under a rock hiding someplace. No other person will ever sway emotions and hate like Trump has. No. And I think people won't allow it. They won't allow something like that once they see somebody even trying to do something like that. They'll shut that shit down. Democrats or reasonably minded people aren't going to let something like this happen again. It's fucking amazing and embarrassing that they allowed it this time. John says, I really feel sorry for the Secret Service. Honestly, John, from what we found out about the Secret Service, I don't know if I feel sorry for them. I have to think that they may be complicit with Donald Trump. Trucker T says, Scotland showed the world how to great Trump. Yeah, they did. And Scotland, the Scottish folks are good at that. We have some people that are listeners in Scotland, and I have to say, job well done. Keep it up. We appreciate it. We have to tell the folks of Canada, Mexico, Scotland, the EU, and all that. Please understand that America isn't Donald Trump. Donald Trump is an island unto himself, and he's a piece of shit. We know it just as well as you do. John Joseph Moran says, no violence, please. Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Violence is not optimal at this point. I don't know that that's going to help. But here's the thing, John. Depending how long and how far the Republicans allowed Donald Trump to go, I see that as a possibility. I don't relish that idea. I don't hope for that idea. But you have to understand when people are struggling and have a lot of stress and they don't think there's any way out, that's the natural reaction. So this is why the Republicans and the Democrats have to do something to stop it before we get to that point. Jose says, pound him with Epstein. Yeah, we've got to stay on Epstein all day, every day. And the thing about it is I don't know that we have to as much as MAGA will do it for us for now and into eternity. You know, Donald Trump is talking about, well, I could pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. Understand who Ghislaine Maxwell is. She is a trafficker. She is guilty. She participated in the crimes. She wasn't just an accessory. She participated in the crimes with Jeffrey Epstein. She's in jail. She belongs in jail. And I've said this before. I said, if Donald Trump wants to pardon her, I think it would be a tragedy. I think it would be absolutely the wrong thing to do. But if he does, here's the thing. It may be the one thing that ultimately buries Donald Trump because MAGA and reasonable-minded people will not buy that shit. He has no reason to pardon her other than his hopes of trying to cover his own ass. But here's the problem that Donald Trump has because he only thinks about himself. He thinks, well, I'm just going to show that I had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein, which isn't true. And then everybody will be happy and they'll shut up about it. No, they won't. Before the election, these MAGA people didn't want the Jeffrey Epstein files to see whether or not Donald Trump was in it. They never in their wildest dreams imagined that he was in it. They want to see the files to see the Democrats and anybody else who's in those files. So Donald Trump can try to extricate himself from the Epstein files, which is impossible. But he's going to try to do that, but that doesn't fix the problem. Catlove says, agree, the damage caused by the Trump regime will take years to correct, and I don't believe the genie will ever be pushed back in the bottle. We will never unsee the damage that has been done. I agree. Now, I will say this. People say, when will we get back to normal? Depends on what you call normal. I mean, a lot of people might suggest that prior to Donald Trump, we were normal, and we weren't. We had a lot of problems there. They just weren't out in the open like they are now. My guess is we'll come out the other side, and there'll be a lot of efforts to fix these things, and they're going to have to take some extreme efforts. So I think on the other side, regardless of how much time it takes, we will see vast improvements to things just to right this ship. I believe that day will come. That's come before in past history in similar situations. So I'm hoping against hope that's the case here too. Not a big news item anymore, but are tariffs still affecting our ports? Um, yeah, I'm sure they are. For a period of time, they did. And the results of that we wouldn't see until maybe September. So coming in September, we might start seeing some real problems. They may be temporary if the tariffs don't get placed back on. But when you have no shipping for a couple, 3 weeks, that leaves a bubble in the middle of the whole supply chain. And there's going to be a moment when there is a problem. And unfortunately, if it happens in September and October, we're coming up right on Christmas. And there's going to be a lot of people fucking pissed. All right. Spacer says, I think we will see a schism in the Democratic Party. The establishment will likely either retire or try to save their careers by running as independents. We're seeing it with Cuomo, Fetterman. Will likely do that in 2028, and Schumer if someone pushes him out. I wish they'd just say, fuck it, I'm old. Let's move on. Let's get the younger people in here. Talking to Denise yesterday, and I think it's absolutely silly that people in their 70s and 80s and even 60s to a certain extent are making decisions that won't affect them but will affect the young people that are coming up. Why should we determine the destiny of these young people? Young people have to understand that they need to get out, they need to run for election, and they need to fucking vote in mass. Cat Love says, Spacer, I'm very disappointed with John Fetterman. Rational. What is your opinion on Fetterman's, um, let's see, your pivot? I think I don't think he's mentally stable, to be perfectly honest. We know he's not mentally stable. We know he has a problem with depression. Um, he probably got in over his head when he took the job as senator, and he's trying to do whatever he thinks is popular. Or this is how he really thinks. He hoodwinked people to get elected. But I just don't think he's mentally capable of doing the job anymore, and he should be sent the fuck home. What would a person like that do to get out from under 20 years? Well, exactly. You're talking about Ghislaine Maxwell. What would she do? Fucking anything. She's already been charged with perjury. She never spoke to any legal authorities. She didn't testify on her own behalf. You can bet whatever she says isn't going to be true. And the thing about it is I think people, including MAGA, don't trust her either, and they don't think that's going to be a fix for the problem we're in the middle of with the Epstein files. Spacer says Fetterman is the worst, but I see him weaseling himself that he tries to run as an independent. You pull an RFK Jr., we call them weasels. Yeah, I agree. I don't know if he will run as an independent. I think he's going to be taken down so hard in Pennsylvania that he's not going to feel confident of being able to do something like that. Kalov says, I don't understand how anyone could believe that Trump is not in the Epstein files. Here is a guy who publicly stated he could have sex with his daughter. So does anyone not see he's in the same pedophile pedigree like Epstein? Well, he absolutely is. I mean, just some of the stories from victims coming out would suggest he is culpable for some of these crimes. The damage from Trump could take decades and lots of money to fix, absolutely. Michael John Lemke says we have to unfuck SCOTUS and unbalanced executive power grabs. Yeah, see, that's going to be the hard part. What do we do with SCOTUS? How do we fix that? I know plenty of people have ideas. It's just a matter of what we can get done. But in order to do those things, we need the Democrats to have the power and Republicans not to have any power. That's a big ask. We need the House, we need the Senate, and ultimately we need the presidency. Because um, the thing about it is people say, well, if we get the House and we get the Senate, we'll be able to pass things. Not necessarily true. We'll be able to stop everything Donald Trump wants to do. That's fine. But in order to pass things, we're going to have to pass them with a supermajority. Otherwise, Donald Trump simply won't fucking sign the bill and it won't pass. So let's not get too excited. Winning the House and the Senate in 2026 at best is probably going to keep us from having to deal with some of the bullshit that Donald Trump wants to come out with. Eric says, speaking of old people, we still have 91-year-old Grassley. Yeah. And this fucker's talking about running again. Jesus Christ. This guy, have you ever seen him in a town hall meeting? He looks fucking lost. You almost feel sorry for him if he wasn't such a dipshit. Cat Love says 100% agree, rational, that it's time for the youth to take the reins and run with this country. Every state has a website detailing the state and local offices to run for. Let's support our young people who want a better country. I will tell you this, when it comes to me voting, if I have two choices, an old person or a young person, without even knowing anything about them, if they're a Democrat, I'm voting for the young person. That's really the only way to at least start to fix what we've got going on here. Michael says, until we restore the constitutionality-based rule of law, we will keep having people go around the law. The corrupt-ass Supreme Court must have real consequences for their criminal behavior. 6 justices have violated their own in more ways than one, than just bribes. And they can be impeached too, but we have to have the majority in the House and the Senate in order to do this. So that's what we've got to be shooting for. And I hate to say we wait till 2026 because we can't do that either. We got to be fighting now. We've got to be pushing back now. What do you think would be consequences if she received a pardon? Would MAGA revolt? I think the entire country would revolt, but I think MAGA would revolt too, because Donald Trump will try to play off like this gives them what they want. And the fact of the matter is, it's not what they want. They want the fucking evidence. They want the documents. There's supposed to be 100,000 pages of documents sitting in the DOJ right now. It would be easy enough for them to release that. They don't have to go to a court. They don't have to do anything. They just have to release it. And MAGA understands this, and they can't understand why they just won't release it. And of course, now they're a little slow, of course, but now they're starting to think, hey, all these elites and rich people that you said you were going to fight against for us, maybe you're them. And they'd be fucking right. They are. The next plague is going to be a world killer. What do you think? I don't know. This whole COVID thing came out of nowhere. It was a surprise. I'm 65 years old, and I was 60 then. I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, the last thing was the Spanish flu in 1918. If we get a big epidemic, it could do some serious damage. Whether it will kill the world, I'm not so sure about that. But, fuck, what do I know? I'm just a guy in my living room. Spacer says this is an epidemic of stupid in this country, which blinds them to the pandemic of far right around the world. We need to crush them at home and communicate to other people in other places to crush the far right. You're absolutely right. Jose says Biden should have gotten rid of Garland. We wouldn't be in this situation. You're absolutely right about this. I've said this many times. I like just about everything that Joe Biden did. And even when he decided to hire or appoint Merrick Garland to the Attorney General, it seemed to be a reasonable choice. I wasn't unhappy with it. Where Joe Biden fucked up was when after a full year, Merrick Garland did nothing, zero, about Donald Trump. And not until he was forced did he hire Jack Smith, as a special counsel to look into it. The fact that it took him a year to get this thing done, Joe Biden should have fired him at that point. And why, I don't know. Again, it's all about, well, let's take the high road. Let's be nice. Let's try to be bipartisan. That shit don't work. We don't need people who are going to fight by the rules. We're fighting against corrupt criminals who cheat. So we need to be working at the same level in order to beat them. The young can't work the system. Well, there's something to be said about that, and that's one of the problems Donald Trump has. As cruel and egregious as he has no idea how to run the system. That's why he can't get anything accomplished typically without threatening or blackmailing or doing whatever he does. You're right. Not everybody in Congress is elderly. There are some good people that may be in their 50s, even 60s. People like Klobuchar, people like Whitehouse. There are people that are older that know how to guide us through the process. So I don't think we should get rid of everybody, but the old people that aren't doing anything, that just sit on their ass and collect their check, they need to fucking go. Spacer says we need an effective AG. I'm saying Letitia James would be on the short list. That would make Trump crazy. Yeah, some people have said Amy Klobuchar. That would be good. There's a lot of possibilities that could be Attorney General. Can you imagine if they made Jasmine Crockett the Attorney General? That would make fucking Trumplefuck's heads explode. Let's see here. They arrested the Texas guy that's running for a seat, threw him in the floor, and cuffed him. Yeah, there's a young African-American man on TikTok. I've seen him a number of times. I follow him. Very bright kid, great prospect for a politician. And he speaks out and says what he wants to say. And he went to a Texas meeting and spoke out. And he wouldn't stop speaking out. So they literally tried to drag him out. When that didn't work, they threw him on the ground. The thing about it is the kid came out on TikTok afterwards and started talking. And that probably was pretty beneficial to him, promotion-wise. See, the young people understand how to use social media. So let's let them use social media. Cat Love says, John, sorry, but I believe the young have the ability to run the country. They get it. Look at AOC. Is there a more dynamic person than this young lady? Yeah, you're absolutely right. To suggest that all young people can't do the job, I disagree. What about this Max kid in the House of Representatives? He's the youngest guy in the House of Representatives. He's good. He's smart. He's strong. There's this guy down in Texas, Tallarico. He's a young religious guy, but he's solid. He's exactly what Texas needs, and I hope he will continue to grow in his profession of politics. He's only 29 years old. All right. Why they tried to charge AOC with $3,000 for her dress back in 2021? Why are we trying to charge Donald Trump for $10 million for going to Scotland to promote his fucking golf course? They will try to do anything to disrupt or cause problems or do what they think will embarrass somebody. Just doesn't work regularly. I mean, the idea of investigating and charging Obama for treason, that's fucking laughable. That's a clown show. Go ahead, do it, motherfucker. I dare you. Or giving a pardon to Ghislaine Maxwell. Do it. Fucking do it, you pussy-ass bitch. Do it. What are your thoughts on this Texas redistricting? I think the Republicans are worried that Democrats are slowly creeping up to them electorally, and if Republicans lose Texas, it effectively over for them. Well, you know what? They better get used to it. The Republicans are over. In 2028, I'm told that the majority of the electorate is going to be millennials and Gen Zs, and most of them aren't buying into the radical right Republican shit. This is what the Republicans see. They see that they're losing their grip, and they aren't going to be as strong in 2028 as they have been in the past. So They're going to try to cheat. And here's the thing. You can gerrymander and do all that stuff, but if we have a massive turnout for the election, even gerrymandering isn't going to fix that. That's what we need. We need all the people who sat on their ass in 2024 to get out and fucking vote. So we need a strong push, and we need people to understand the damage being done to the country and the terrible situation we're in. And hopefully that will cause more people to vote. Any functional opposition to the GOP and MAGA idiocy as general is going to have to consider control of state legislators, gubernatorial races, even local and municipal control of many aspects of governance. Absolutely. And we're kind of seeing Republicans getting their ass kicked in some local elections, places where Republicans would normally win. There's just been a few of them, so nothing to get excited about as yet. But that is a signal of things to come. Spacer says there are young people in other countries in leadership positions, some even being the head of state in their nation and running their country well. If it can happen there and other places, it can happen here. And let's be honest, it can't be any worse than what we've got now. If they're honest and decent and are working for the people, but they need some experience, I'm willing to let them learn on the job as opposed to the bullshit we're dealing with now. It's Michael says we're especially going to have to root out a lot of the Trumpers that were installed in lower courts that are involved in redistricting maps. Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is going to be a long process. This isn't going to be something done easily. First and foremost, we've got to put out the dumpster fire. That dumpster fire being Donald Trump. Once Donald Trump is extinguished one way or another, then MAGA will be weakened. They won't have their leader, their Lord and Savior, and they are going to weaken. The people in Congress that are terrified of Donald Trump won't have to worry about that anymore. They'll be able to vote their conscience as opposed to what they're doing now, being blackmailed or bullied by Donald Trump. And that will be the start of getting things right again. As I've said, just because we get Donald Trump out and the 2026 elections go well doesn't mean we're saved yet. And you people that vote Democrats, you've got to be patient with the Democrats or whoever is trying to fix things. It's been damaged so mightily that it's going to take some time, and you got to be able to give that time and just be glad we're on the proper road. Spacer says we need to end gerrymandering once the idiots are gone, Democrats or Republicans, then we need to end gerrymandering. And let's be honest, what gerrymandering is trying to rig the system so your side wins. Gerrymandering has nothing to do with serving this country and the people in the country. It has nothing to do with that. It's like the filibuster. That doesn't help us. All that does is delay or just not get any decisions done. These people love to figure out ways where they can game the system or delay and delay and delay and keep collecting their checks while doing nothing in fucking Congress. So you're absolutely right about that. Money in politics has to go. Absolutely. That is the absolute worst thing we have in politics right now. Take AIPAC, for example. We've got money coming from Israel to members of Congress, and it's not just Republicans, it's Democrats. Think about that for a second. We've got a PAC that is putting money in the pockets of our representatives to benefit Israel. Now, I have no problem with Israel. I have a lot of problems with their leader. He is a war criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu. But the fact of the matter is, if we're going to be an independent country, a country unto itself, we can't have some other country, whether it be Israel, Canada, fucking Japan, I don't care what it is. They can't be controlling what's going on in Congress. And that is exactly what's happening. More money comes in, and our representatives do the opposite of what we expect them to do. Take a look at the big, beautiful bill. 75% of the bill, our people in this country didn't want it, but we fucking got it anyways because Republicans are pussy-ass bitches. Trucker T says Texas Republicans threw the map in 2021. Now they're running scared. Yeah, I think there's a lot of Republicans running scared. They're seeing the writing on the wall. They're seeing the effects of Donald Trump and MAGA and what they're doing to the electorate. It's not going well for them, without question. I would hope that means there is a blue tsunami in 2026. But on November 5th of 2024, I firmly believe that Kamala Harris would win through all common sense and logic, and she didn't. And that really kind of fucking messed me up. When common sense and logic don't work, then what the fuck do you have? Spacer says, I also suggested putting more conducted on lobbying. I think you probably got an autocorrect there. I suggest that lobbyists have to declare meetings within an ethics team to meet with politicians, not to ban lobbying, but we need more regulations and lobbying on money into politics. We need more accountability. If you're going to break the fucking law, we need to punish people who break the law and not just let them off the hook like we do with all rich and powerful people. We should limit the money that's in politics. You know, we should maybe work out a deal, especially in presidential politics, where you get $10 million. Both parties get $10 million. Do your best job with $10 million and let the chips fall where they may. Money shouldn't determine who becomes president, senator, or congressman. Shouldn't do that. Somebody said there was nothing in it for him to pardon Santos. Yeah, Donald Trump's not going to pardon Santos. He's a fucking goof. There is nothing in it for Donald Trump. And the only way Donald Trump does anything is if he gets something back. Like with Ghislaine Maxwell, in his simple mind, he's thinking that if he gets Ghislaine Maxwell out there to say what he wants her to say, that he'll get something out of it. What he doesn't realize is that's not going to help. That's not going to work. And by pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell, you'll basically burn down the Republican Party. I guarantee you there are people around him right now saying, do not fucking do that. Please do not do that. But you know, Donald Trump, he does some stupid shit, so it wouldn't surprise me if, in fact, he did do it. And while I'd hate to see her free, I wonder how long she'd be free. I wonder how long she would have a heartbeat when it comes to her being loose on the streets. There's a lot of people that hate her and are terrified of her. And Donald Trump thinks he's going to gain something out of this. He's not. Bottom line, vote blue. Don't care if it is Goofy or Elmer Fudd. It is better than fascism. You're absolutely right about that. And that's one thing people have to understand. Some people don't like the idea of voting for the lesser of two evils. But when you have somebody as evil as Donald Trump, it makes some sense. A lot of people thought Kamala wasn't the perfect presidential candidate. She doesn't do this. She does do that. She doesn't do this. Here's what you got to understand if you're voting for president. No matter who you are, you're not going to get all the things you want. You're not going to get all the things you want. That doesn't exist. But here's what I will tell you. And I told people prior to November 5th, if you want a real progressive government, that's cool. I'm for that. Let's do that. If you vote for Kamala Harris on November 5th, you had a chance to ultimately get there. You vote for Donald Trump, you have no chance. So while Kamala may not give you all the things you want, at least it puts you on the road to get to where you want. Don't be fucking stupid about this stuff. I saw Denise on the podcast today mention the ICC. Do you think the U.S. should recognize the ICC as an authority? I think so. Yeah, there's probably a reason why they don't, and I don't know what that would be. But if people are committing international crimes, we should recognize it. Now, the fact of the matter is, if Donald Trump was convicted of an international crime, which he certainly could happen, the United States isn't going to send the president to The Hague to stand trial. It's just not going to happen any more than Vladimir Putin is going to get sent to The Hague by Russia because he's a convicted international criminal. A Benjamin Netanyahu, the same thing. No country is going to send their leader to trial on an international level. So whether we recognize it or not, I don't know that makes a difference. Let's see here. How does it, and then how does he do it, then deny it? He did it. Short-term memory loss. Yeah, that's a good point. I was talking about it on TikTok earlier today. A while back, maybe 4 or 5 days, somebody asked Donald Trump if he'd heard anything from Pam Bondi regarding the Jeffrey Epstein files. He said, yeah, we just had a short briefing on it. Didn't go into detail. Haven't been thinking much about it. Then in a couple of days, it comes out that, in fact, Pam Bondi and the DOJ notified Donald Trump in May that he was in the files. Notify him that he is in the file. Now, yesterday, he comes out, the press is talking to him, and have you ever talked to Pam Bondi about being in the files and that sort of thing? And he said, no, I haven't talked to her about it. Now, 5 days ago, he said he did talk to her, even though it was brief, and now he's saying no. He's not only a pathological, habitual liar, he's horrible at it. He's a horrible liar. I think that Trump gets out of pardoning many people is in spite showing his base that he's owned the libs. It's like a bullying thing. Yeah, I do. I mean, it is a bullying thing. That's what it's always been. The irony about progressive politics is that it was started by Teddy Roosevelt, a Republican. Yeah, that is ironic. Pardoning Santos wouldn't be the first nonsensical thing that Donald Trump ever did, Mike. Yeah, you're right about that. But what's in it for him? He's very transactional. There's nothing in it for him. He's a big goof. Unless there's something he could gain, like somehow explain that Donald Trump's not in the Epstein files and get people to believe it, he's not going to pardon George Santos. Trucker T. Trump is sending governors Trump 2028 hats as a message. Donald Trump thinks he's tough, but what you have to understand is he's getting weaker and weaker every day. And you can tell he's getting weaker and weaker every day because his threats get bigger and more frequent. That's what narcissists do. They threaten you, and if you back down, they win. If they threaten you and you don't back down, they just threaten bigger, and they keep threatening bigger because that's the only strategy they understand. Bullying until they give up. And people in this country are no longer giving up, and this is what's confusing, troubling, and causing Donald Trump to spin out of control. Rumor is that Mike Trump wants Lawler to run for New York governor. Lawler is going to lose. Also, Elise Stefanik is looking to run for governor also. We'll likely see 2 new seats up for grabs. Yeah, and one of the things I was talking to some folks on the podcast about is with all this shit going down and all the problems that are happening and the likelihoods of a blue wave in 2026, I think we're going to see a lot of people retiring from Congress, maybe a senator, maybe House members. But we're going to see people that we hear about every day going away. Do you honestly think that Mike Johnson's going to get reelected in 2026? Fucking Republicans don't like him any more than the Democrats do. He's done nothing but fail. He's got the big, beautiful bill passed. That's a feather in his cap. But that is affecting Louisiana as much or more than anybody in this country. So Mike Johnson has that to hang his hat on, that he's fucking over the people in his own state. You think that's going to help him get reelected? I don't think so. And guess what? If he doesn't get reelected, he's no longer Speaker of the House either. It's when Mike Johnson was put in the position of the Speaker of the House, he got so caught up in his ego that he wanted to be Speaker of the House. I'm guessing he had no idea just how difficult it would be and how bad he would end up looking. Mike Johnson is a throwaway for Donald Trump. He'll use him until he can't use him, and then he'll throw him away. That's what Donald Trump does with everybody. He will do that with Mike Johnson and anybody else that speaks out against him or doesn't perform as well as he would like them to perform. Donald Trump never takes responsibility for anything. Any failures that happen, he's going to blame somebody else. And when he starts blaming other people, that causes more division within the party and more problems for the Republicans. Vivek Ramaswamy is putting out campaign ads here in Ohio for New Yorkers tomorrow to conservative bastion, Ohio. Where I live is pretty blue, but I'm not sure about how the rural community surrounding here would vote. Yeah. To be honest with you, Vivek Ramaswamy isn't unlike J.D. Vance. I think most people don't have any respect for him. He's not too bright a guy when it comes to politics. And I just don't think people like it. And think about this. Think about this. He wants to run for election for something in the Republican Party. He's got a few problems. He's brown, for one thing. His parents are immigrants, for another thing. Republicans aren't going to vote for that shit. They're too racist. Michael says, I keep waiting for Trump to fire Bimbo Blondie because she's really a little used to him anymore. If you're a student of this pattern, he's kind of overdue for his childish wrath. Remember Sessions' mistakes, yeah. But he's got a problem with Pam Bondi, though. He's trying to blame Pam Bondi for not releasing the Epstein file, right? Well, Pam Bondi doesn't even really have the control to do it. So if he fires Pam Bondi and puts somebody else in new, MAGA's going to presume that now they'll be able to release the files. But the fact of the matter is they won't release the files because it's not Pam Bondi, it's Donald motherfucking Trump. They aren't going to release it as long as Donald Trump can hold it back. It's just not going to happen. Not only for his own safety and his own personal situation, but there's a lot of people on those lists that are very powerful, very wealthy, maybe even famous. And there's a lot of pressure coming from those folks too. I'm sure the DOJ is getting calls from a lot of famous and rich people saying, bitch, you don't put that out. The only way that's going to get put out if it's absolutely forced and if Pam Bondi and Donald Trump aren't there to stop it. That's the only way that shit's going to be released. But I'll be honest with you. I don't care right now if the Jeffrey Epstein files are released. I know a lot of you saying, what do you mean? Why would you say that? Well, look, if the Epstein files aren't released like they haven't been released, what's happened? It gets worse and worse every day. I'd rather see them ride this out for 6 months to a year and turn it into a fucking firestorm, a shitstorm, and constantly be dogging the Republican Party. There's nothing more concerning to people than the unknown. They don't know what to expect. They may even in their minds make it worse than it really is. So I don't care if they release the Epstein files. I hope they don't for the time being. So MAGA just gets stirred up and even madder than they already are. The BBB won't benefit Johnson when his voters start realizing just how badly he's betrayed them. There is nothing more despicable than a mealy-mouthed Christian who breaks multiple commandments on a daily basis. You're absolutely right. Trucker T said he would choke on a burger before he released those lists. Absolutely. Maybe that's what it'll take. Somebody needs to get him a Big Mac and keep feeding him Big Macs until he does choke. That seems to be the one of the best routes. But honestly, I think there's some people have suggested this, and I don't disagree with them. When you see people like Rupert Murdoch going after Donald Trump, You see people like Elon Musk going after Donald Trump. You see this happening, Peter Thiel. You see this happening, and it isn't crazy to think that these wealthy oligarchs are now at the point where they've had enough of him and they don't need him anymore, so they're going to do whatever they can to push him out. Now, the Republicans can kick him out with the 25th Amendment and an impeachment. The only problem with both those opportunities is that if they do that now under the current situation, MAGA is going to be furious with the Republicans, and that will create a bigger crevice in the Republican Party. Now, if he was to keel over and choke on a Big Mac, that would probably work to the Republican Party's benefit because they can all say, oh, poor Donald Trump's gone. He's our Lord and Savior. We'll stand up for you. We'll win this for him. They wouldn't lose the MAGA base at that point because they'd all be tied in, weeping over Donald Trump's loss. But they can't count on that. They don't know what's going to happen. You have to understand Donald Trump is much like a cockroach, and he apparently can survive through anything. But what they can do is do what Rupert Murdoch intends to do by trickling things out all the time. Take him down a bit at a time and destroy his image, not only to Democrats and Republicans, but to MAGA. And the Epstein files might be the one thing to do it, the one thing to get MAGA to turn and look away from Donald Trump. And that may be what the oligarchs are looking to do, destroy his reputation amongst the dumbest of us, and then impeach him and not take the beating from the MAGA fucks in the election because they agree with it. I don't know. I may be wrong about that, but that's something to consider. I was reading this, not for sure if this is confirmed. Ghislaine Maxwell apparently said that whenever something illegal was happening, Epstein, Trump was in another room. Well, Trucker T, I would say the comment is BS. I think the idea that that's what she said is not BS because she is a perjurer. She's a liar. She's a criminal. She's a trafficker. She is, well, one of the victims said she's the most predatory human she's ever met. And they're talking about releasing this woman. It's just fucking appalling at this point. It really is. All right, we're about an hour into this. I'm going to wrap things up. I need to get some sleep. My eyes are red as a motherfucker. But I wanted to come out and talk to you, and I really do appreciate when you folks come out and respond and ask questions and the like. I appreciate it very much. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and never fear, I'll see you again tomorrow.